Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. Today we'll be talking about the Twin portal that you can use in order to access the lesson plans and show your students videos about the topics that you're going to cover or do activities together. And we can also use AI tools that are present in the portal as well. We will get into detail about all of these, so let's get into the portal. To get to the platform, you can go to app.twinscience.com and then you'll be selecting your role, which is educator. After you select educator, you're going to say already have an account, sign in, and then put the information that was given to you. After you sign in, you can see the homepage where you'll find updates and the latest news. And from here, you can also access the AI tools and the experiments, which we'll get into later on in the video. So first I want to talk about how you can create a class. So if you go look at the left side of the platform, you'll see that there's a part called the classes. If we go to classes, you'll see that I have a class called 5E that I had created previously, and I have my students here. From here, you can see that there are other classes that I had created, 6A, 6D, but now I'm going to create a new class, so I'm selecting create new class. After I select that, I'm going to give it a name. So let's say 7A. And then I'm going to select the grade, which is going to be 7th grade. And after I say create and wait for a little bit, my classroom is going to be created. So after I create a classroom, the thing that I have to do is add students. You can go to the add student segments on the platform. And here you can write the names of your students using commas. So I'm going to say Max, Sophia, and then let's say James. After I write the names of my students, dividing them with commas, I'm going to say add, and then after I wait for a little bit, all my students will be added to the platform. After my students are added, you can view their nicknames, so their usernames and their passwords from the students part of the classes. And if you want to share the credentials with your students, you can select one of the students' print credentials section. And after you select that, you're going to download the PDF. And if you click on this, you can see that there is a PDF where you can find the username and the password of the student. And if you give this to the student or the parent, they can access the platform using these credentials. And if they scan the QR code that you can see, they will be able to go to the App Store or the Google Play Store where they can download the application. If you would like to download all the students' credentials all together, you can click on the 3 dots on the right side, right next to the Add Students part, and you'll see that it says Print All Students' Credentials. After we click on this, we will see that there's a document called 7A Credentials, and here we will have all our students' credentials separately on an A4 document, so you can print this out and hand this out to the students as well. And if you go to class reports, again, you can see how many of them have completed it, and you can have more analysis on the students and the lesson plans that they have completed. To assign lesson plans to students, you can go to the Twin library. So for this classroom, I'm going to go to the World Science Movement. And after I select the World Science Movement, I'm going to select how the twin modules work as an example. And from here, you can see that there's a segment called Assign. If you click on Assign and then say Select All and then say Assign, you will assign this lesson plan to your students. If you say Go to Assignments, you will see that this is the assignment that has been assigned to your students. And you can see that 0 have completed and 3 have not started yet. You can see how many students have completed, how many answers they've gotten right, how many answers they've gotten wrong from the class reports and the assignments part of the classes. Now I want to get a little bit more into the lesson plans themselves. So if we go back to World Science Movement Term 1 from the Twin library and again go to how the twin modules work, you can see that you're first greeted with an introduction. From the introduction, you can see a basic understanding of what the lesson plan is going to be about, what you're going to do during the lesson, what they're going to do at home, and the activities that they are going to be doing. After that, you can see that there are the learning objectives. So the learning objectives show us what we want the students to gain from this lesson plan, basically what we want them to grasp after they watch the video that is in the lesson plan and they do the challenge. After, we can see that there are the materials. This is all the materials that they will be using during the lesson plan. And then we can see the curriculum alignment where we show which national curriculum and which parts this lesson plan is aligned with. And lastly, we have the sustainable development goals. So this is which sustainable development goals the lesson plan is aligned with. So as I've mentioned, we will have videos and challenges for the lesson plan. So if we scroll down a little bit, we can see that there is a video and then there's a challenge. So if we first go into the video, which is titled How the Twin Modules Work, you can see that in the video, the students will be greeted with Twins character, Artie. And here, the students have a 3 minute and 50 seconds long video where the lesson is explained. And also there's a bar on the bottom of the video. This is only available for the educator platform. The students will have to watch the whole video, but the educators will be able to skip parts and go to the end of the video as they wish. So one of the most important aspects of the platform and the videos are the interactive elements. So if we go forward a little bit, we will see that there is a question. So if the students answer the question correctly, they will see the correct answer. And if they answer the wrong answer, they will have an interface showing them why their answer is wrong. After you go to the experiments, there will be an interface showing you the difficulty level of the experiment, how long it is supposed to take, the skills that the experiment will be giving, and then there will be videos showing the experiment step by step. If you scroll down, you will see the introduction, the materials, and the steps of the experiments as well. Another important aspect of the platform are the AI tools. So if we go to the AI tools, one of the parts of AI tools is the content generator. So if we go there, we can see that there are a lot of tools available to take the load off your shoulders, as the platform says. So we have our puzzle generator, the lesson planner, Quizcraft, challenge maker, and loads more. So I want to get into the puzzle generator for a little bit. So the puzzle generator allows you to select a topic or use one of the selected contents to create a puzzle. So I'm going to select one of the suggestions. So it's going to be biomimicry. After I say submit, it does take a little bit of time, and you can give this out to your students during breaks so that they can have fun, or add it to your lesson plan as well. After the puzzle is created, you can say save and save it to your library. After you save the puzzle or any of the assignments that you've created to your library, you can say assign and assign it to your students, similar to how you did the other lesson plans. Then we can go on to the lesson planner. So the lesson planner, again, lets you choose a content or use one of the suggested ones. Again, I'm going to select one of the suggested ones, let's say coding, and then I'm going to select 7th grade because my class is a 7th grade class. After you say generate, a lesson plan will be created similar to the ones on the Twin library, containing an introduction, materials, the sustainable development goals, and the curriculum alignment. You can see that you can, again, assign these lesson plans to your students as well. Then we have our Quizcraft. Here, again, you can write a topic or you can select one. I'm going to select one again, and then I am going to say STEM skills for sustainability, and then you can select a subject. I'm going to say all STEM, and then a grade, 7th grade, because my class is a 7th grade class. And then you can select the question types and quantities. So if I want 2 single select questions, I'm going to say 2 single select, and then 1 fill in the blanks, and then 3 multiple select, and 0 true or false. And after I say submit, a quiz will be created. You can assign pre and post assessment quizzes or create exit cards for your students. If you want to, you can select the questions and make them easier or harder, or you can just recreate the question if you want to, or you can highlight the text and make it longer, shorter, fix the grammar. So you can monitor and change the questions as you wish, or you can delete the question altogether or write your own question as well. After you say save and save the quiz to your library, you can assign it to your students, similar to the other AI tools as well. Lastly, we have Image Forge. Here you can, again, write down or select a topic, let's say pyramids of Egypt, and then select the shape, and then select the style. And after you say submit, you can create images to add to your PowerPoint, or you can create images to show to your students as well. Lastly, if you go to Assistant under AI tools, you can find an assistant where you can ask for advice on how to present a topic or an activity, or if you require any assistance, you can get by messaging this assistant feature. The last aspect of the platform that I want to talk about is the Educator Forum. So if you click on the Educator Forum, you're going to be sent to the Twin Educator community. This is a platform where you can connect with other educators, and this is a forum where educators can share their content and feedback. From the All Categories section, you can access any specific areas you need. So you can share ideas with other educators, you can find the Twin announcements, or share experiences, or see the experiences of other educators eager to teach just as you are. And if you need any assistance from the Twin team, you can go to the Ask the Twin team, and you can consult on any questions that you have or any issues that you're having. The platform is a great opportunity to share the experience that you've had and the experiments that you've done with your students, while also seeing the experiences and the experiments of other students as well. While you can see the experiences of other educators through the platform, you can also interact with them and share your own experiences as well. Hello again. Now we will be exploring the twin modules together. You can also access how the twin modules work from the portal as well, and you can show it to your students. And now, firstly, I'll be showing you where you can access this information from the World Science Movement Term 1 section. However, you can also type twin modules to the lessons or videos part, and you will be able to access how the twin modules work video or lesson through there as well. If you go to the World Science Movement Term 1, you'll see that there are loads of lessons. For example, how the twin modules work, dimmers and control modules, exploring sound sensors. Here you will have videos explaining how the modules work and how they interact with each other, as well as experiments in order to understand how these modules work better. Now we can explore the set. First, we can start with opening our twin set. Here you can see that there is a what's in the box outline. There are pictures of every module that's in it. This will also make it easier for you to put everything back together after using them. We can start with our power module. This is the gray one. So this is the USB power. You can power the module using any power source that has a USB insert. So the module has a micro USB insert. So when you're putting the cable in, it should be taken into consideration that the cable and the insert are aligned so that it doesn't get hurt. This is a good point to keep in mind when working with the kids so that they don't use excessive force. And so we have our power bank here in order to power the circuit. And if we connect them, we will see that when we change the button and put it to on, there will be a green light. So the gray module is our power module. And if we continue, we'll see that we have our blue, red, and yellow modules as well. We can start with our blue modules. The blue modules are used to convert the energy into outputs. For example, if you connect one of the blue modules, which is the buzzer, with the power, it will create a sound converting the energy into sound. You can also see that if you're trying to connect the modules together from the wrong side, the magnets will push each other away, which means that you will just have to turn it around and they will connect very easily. So if we power the circuit up, the buzzer will turn the energy into output, which is sound in this case. Now we can continue on to the other colors. For example, the yellow ones. The yellow modules are the control modules. So after you connect the power source with one of the output modules, you can use one of the yellow modules. For example, the slide dimmer. This way you can control the intensity of the output. So for example, again with the buzzer, if we connect it to the it has to be in between. If we connect the power module to the control module, and after that, if we add the output module, we can see that as I increase the slide dimmer, the sound intensity also increases. Lastly, our red modules are used for transmission and logic. So if we connect our power module, a control module, which I'll be using the button, and another output module, which I'll be using the LED this time. And if we connect the button, the latch, and then the LED, when I press the button, I will not have to keep pressing the button in order to keep the light on. I will just have to press it once. In this experiment, we'll be exploring our sound sensors and creating an accessible doorbell for hearing impaired people. Inside our World Science Movement Term 1, we can see that there is a lesson called Exploring Sound Sensors. If we get into that one, we can again, as always, see our learning objectives, the introduction, materials, curriculum alignment, sustainable development goals. And if we go down, we can see that there is a Make an Inclusive Doorbell Challenge. In here, you can see the steps into making this doorbell, but right now we'll be doing it together using our twin set that we have right here. First, we'll be starting with our gray power module. We'll again be connecting this to our power source, which is our power bank. So if we connect this and put it to on, the green light will get on. Then we'll be connecting our button. After we connect our control module, so the button, we can connect this to our buzzer. We'll be using this buzzer as our normal doorbell. So if we press the button, the buzzer will go off. Then we'll connect this to our wire and using the wire, we'll be connecting it to another control module, which is a sound sensor. Before we finish our experiment, I want to give more information about the sound sensor. So as you can see, there are two modes on the sensor, mode A and mode B. When the sensor is on mode A, this means that the transmission is done according to the intensity of the sound, and the sensitivity of the sensor can actually be monitored and changed using this button over here. If I turn it all the way to the left, the sensitivity is at 0 and it cannot detect sound. And if I turn it all the way to the right, right, it's at the maximum level. And if the mode is on B, this means that when sound is detected, the transmission will be done after 4 seconds. Now we can continue on our experiment. Then we will again connect the wire to the buzzer and then the other side of the wire to our sound sensor, so the control module. And lastly, we will be connecting our LED, which is the light output module. This way, when sound is detected, there will be light to make it known that the doorbell has been rang. Let's see. Now we can try if it works or not. So when I press the buzzer, this will imitate the doorbell and the light will turn on when the sound is detected by the sound sensor. In this experiment, we'll be exploring the proximity sensors and we'll be creating an imitation of a car parking sensor using the twin sets. So if we go to the World Science Movement, and we're going to be seeing a lesson called Exploring Proximity Sensors. If we get into that one, similar to the previous lessons, we'll be seeing an introduction, learning objectives, materials, curriculum alignment, and sustainable development goals that are aligned with the lesson. And if we scroll down, we'll be seeing a video, Parking Smartly with Proximity Sensors, and then a challenge, Making a Parking Sensor, which is what we'll be doing right now. For this experiment, we're going to be using our power module, and then we're going to be using our buzzer, bar graph, and our proximity sensor. Before we start, I want to give a little bit more information about the proximity sensor. So as you can see, again, we have our A and B modes. If the proximity sensor is at mode A, this means that the energy is transmitted when there is nothing close to it. And as we get closer to the proximity sensor, the energy is going to stop being transmitted. And if we have it on mode B, it's going to be the opposite. As we get closer to the proximity sensor, it's going to start transmitting the energy. And we can also see that there are two LEDs on this part over here. These LEDs, one of them transmits and the other one receives the infrared waves. And this way the proximity sensor is able to detect distance between what is coming closer or getting farther away from it. So now we can assemble the circuit. First, we're going to put together our proximity sensor and our power module, and then we can put our output modules, the buzzer and the bar graph. We can also, since the modules are similar to Legos, we can put this over here. I'll turn it over here so I can get it closer. And now we turn it on. Since it's on mode B, as I get closer to the proximity sensor, similar to when you're parking your car, there's going to be sound and there's going to be light increasing as I get closer. Now we'll be exploring our motion sensor using the revolving door experiment. Again, you can reach this experiment from the World Science Movement Term 1 section in the portal. If you go to the Exploring Motion Sensors, you'll, again, per usual, see the lesson plan, learning objectives, materials introduction, curriculum alignment, and the sustainable development goals. If you scroll down a little bit, there will be a video explaining seeing infrared, and then there will be a make your own rotating door experiment, which you can do with your class, which we'll be doing right now together. For this experiment, we'll be using our power module, motion sensor, DC motor, and then a wire. So I first want to talk a little bit about the motion sensor. Again, similar to the previous control modules, we have two modes, A and B. Mode A transmits energy when motion is detected, and mode B stops transmitting energy when motion is detected. In addition, the shape of the sensor helps collect the infrared rays from all around the sensor and not just from one point. So when a ray comes from the right side, top hand side, from the left, it doesn't matter. It can all concentrate at the focal point due to the shape of the sensor. Now we can start our experiment. Firstly, we will be connecting our motion sensor to the power unit, and then we'll be connecting our wire to the motion sensor and the other end of the wire to our DC motor. We have to make sure that the DC motor is in analog mode and not coding, since we're not going to be using the coding module right now, but we will be getting into that in the next videos. Our goal with this experiment is to make the DC motor start working when motion is detected. So we will be keeping the motion sensor at mode A. Now we can try it out. So when I put my hand closer to it and make movements, the DC motor starts working. And when I pull it back, it should stop after a while. So after we wait for a bit, the DC motor stops working after motion is not detected anymore. So in this experiment, we're going to be exploring the light sensor, and we're going to be imitating a night lamp. Similar to the previous experiments, we can find how to do this one on inside the World Science Movement Term 1 folder as well. If we go to the lesson called Exploring Light Sensors, you'll see that, again, we have our introduction, learning objectives, materials, curriculum alignment, sustainable development goals. If we scroll down a little bit, we will see the video called Light Up the Nightlight. This is the informational video, and right next to it there is a make your own nightlight experiment. Let's try if it works. I'm just going to cover the light dependent resistor with my hand to create a darker environment. And as I make it darker, the more LEDs get brighter on the bar graph, and the LED gets slightly brighter and brighter and brighter. Hello again. Today we'll be talking about the twin coding modules. You can access these through the portal. If you go to the Code Twin, you will encounter coding blocks. And if you click the tutorials on top, you can find example experiments to try out. Right now, we are not going to be focusing on the portal, but we will be talking about the twin coding module so we can get back to the set. Before we start exploring the coding module using experiments, I want to talk about the module itself for a bit. As you can see, it has 6 different parts where you can connect different modules on it. But before you connect different modules, we first have to connect it to a power source. After we connect it to a power source, again, similar to the gray power module, it has a micro USB, so you have to be careful when you're connecting it in order to not have to use excessive force and damage the module itself. After you connect it to the power source, there's going to be a green light showing that it is working. There's also going to be a blue light flashing on and off. This means that the module is now searching for something to connect to. You can then connect it to your phone twin coding app or from your portal, the coding module. Using Bluetooth, you can connect to your phone using the twin code app, or you can connect to the coding part from the portal as well. After you connect, it's going to be a stable blue light, and then you're going to be able to use the coding blocks inside the application or the portal. You can also use jumper cables and connect it to other modules that are not a part of the twin set as well. So if we want to experiment with the coding module, we can go to our twin coding app. This app is available on both iOS and Android from wherever you can download it. After you enter the app, you're going to be greeted by an interface showing you 3 different options: coding, experiments, and controller. Right now we're going to go into coding to see the example projects that we can do. There are many projects here: emergency light, length meter, a piano, radar. We can do many different projects using the coding module. If we go to my projects, you can create your own project, but for the sake of learning about the coding module, we will be sticking to one of the examples. So the first one we're gonna experiment with is the lights of the city experiment. If we go into that one, and firstly, obviously, we have to connect the coding module with the power source. After we connect it, it's gonna have the green light as it's on and the blue lights flashing since it is trying to connect. If we click the button on the top right hand side of the application, it's going to search for the twins nearby. If you're in a classroom and there are multiple twins, it might connect to a different one. So if the module isn't working, that might be the reason. But right now, since I'm the only one here, it connects very easily. And as you can see, it shows the coding block shows that the 7.1, 7.2, and the 7.3s on the coding block, on the coding module will be lit with white lights. If I change the 7.1 to red, the 7.2 to blue, and 7.3 to purple, and press start one more time, then it's going to change on the coding module as well. So you have full control over what the coding module does on your application. Now, in order to do our next experiment, I'm going to open one of the lesson plans, which is repetition and variables. I'm going to use our filter in order to find the lesson easily. So if we go into this lesson and scroll down, we can see a video called Flash, the Emergency Light. This is one of the coding module experiments as well, but we're not going to watch the video right now, and we're going to do the experiments itself using the Code Twin part of the portal. After we go to Code Twin, we can go to the tutorials, and the first experiment is going to be the emergency light. After we enter the experiment, we're going to see coding blocks that the experiment consists of. So we have our start block, and then we have our repeat block, which says 3, which means that the action is going to be repeated 3 times. And then we have our RGB LEDs, similar to the one we did previously. They're all red this time, and then the buzzer is supposed to play the D note. And then we have our, again, RGB LEDs showing in different color, and the buzzer playing a different note. So let's try it. Okay, so firstly, we're going to be connecting our coding module with our power source. Again, it's on green, meaning that it's on, and the Bluetooth is flashing, so it means that we have to connect it. So if we go to the Bluetooth sign right next to the green flag saying go, it's gonna say code.twinscience.com wants to pair, and then if we select twin and say pair, it's going to be paired with our coding module, and it's gonna stop flashing blue. And then since on the coding block it says the buzzer is at D6, I'm gonna connect the buzzer to D6, and now I can say go. So similar to a police car, it's playing the different notes back to back, and simultaneously it's flashing red and blue. And since the repetition block says 3, the action is repeated 3 times. You can change the color or the note if you want to, and you can change the number of times it repeats as well. So for our next experiment, we're going to be using the ultrasonic sensor. Again, we can use a twin coding app to see the coding block. So we're going to go to coding, and this time we're going to select the length meter, and we're going to be able to see the coding blocks inside. So first on the coding block, we have our start block. And after it, we can see the repeat while true. This part is testing whether the coding block under it is true or not constantly. And then we can see the if ultrasonic value, so centimeters, is smaller than or equal to 50. And then we can see the do or else. So when the ultrasonic sensor detects the distance, if it's smaller than or equal to 50, the RGB LEDs will turn to green. And if it isn't, it's gonna turn to red. So now we can test this out. So for this experiment, the only parts that we need are the ultrasonic sensor, the twin coding module, and then our power source. So the ultrasonic sensor has a transmitter and then a receiver. The transmitter transmits the ultrasonic sound waves, and after these sound waves reach a solid point, they will bounce back and be received by the receiver. This way, the ultrasonic sensor is able to detect the distance between. This is similar to how bats and dolphins find their way around. So first, we're going to be attaching the ultrasonic sensor to the twin coding module, and then we're going to be attaching the power source to the module as well. After that, we're going to be connecting the coding module to our application or phone so that it is able to understand the code as well. On the right side, it shows an ultrasonic value. This is the distance between the first solid thing and the ultrasonic sensors, so which is my hand at the moment. If I get it closer, it's getting smaller and smaller, and if I take it further away, it's going to be a higher value. So now, because we've set the value as 50 centimeters, it is going to be difficult with the area that we have to show the color changing. So I'm going to change this to 20 centimeters so that we can test it out. After I change a value or change something in the code, I'm going to have to stop and then start one more time so that it can take in the code. So if I put my hand here, it's going to be 25 centimeters, so it should be red. But as I get closer and reach 20 centimeters, it's going to turn to green. An activity that can be done with this experiment is seeing how tall your students are. So if you get one of your students and put the ultrasonic sensor above their head, you'll be able to see how far it is. And when they get away from the ultrasonic sensor, you're going to see how far the floor is. This way, you're going to be able to get their height. For our next experiment, we're going to look at the lesson plan Exploring Nested Loops. Again, we can access this through the World Science Movement Term 1 part of our portal. If we go into it, again, we're going to be greeted by our introduction, learning objectives, materials, curriculum alignment, and the Sustainable Development Goals. And then we're going to see the video called Loops with Loops, and then our challenge, Smart Animal Gate, where you can do the Smart Animal Gate experiment with your students using the directions on the lesson plan, but today we're not going to look at the lesson plan, and we're going to do it together using the coding module. For this experiment, we're going to be using our coding module, the buzzer, servo motor, our power outlet, some tack, our ultrasonic sensors, and then one straw. We can go to Code to Win from our portal in order to access the coding blocks. We'll go to the tutorials again, and then we can go to Smart Security Door, and we'll be greeted again by our coding block. So here we have our starting block, and then we have our baseline. So in our baseline, you can see that the LEDs are supposed to be black, which means that they're not going to be showing any color at the moment. They're not going to be having any color in them. And then we have our servo at D6, which means that it's again at a beginning angle. One important thing to note is we have to change the modes from analog to coding in each part because we're going to be using the coding module, but inside the coding block it still stays at analog mode, so we have to switch that around. And then we have initial code. So it says if the ultrasonic value in centimeters is smaller than 10, it's going to be showing green light. Servo motor's angle is going to be changing from 0 to a right angle at 90 degrees. And then we have our buzzer simultaneously playing the note law. And then the code says to wait for 5 seconds. After waiting for 5 seconds, it's gonna return to its base condition, which is no lights, and then the angle at 0. So we can try this out now. So first we're connecting our power source to our coding module. And then we can connect the servo motors to D6. We can understand which part of the coding module we have to connect the modules to from looking at the coding block as well, because as we can see, it says servo D6 mode coding. So we can understand that we're supposed to connect the servo motor to the D6 of the coding block. And then we can connect our buzzer to D9. And then we're gonna attach our straw using some tack to the propeller of the servo motor in order to imitate a gate. Lastly, we can stick our gate on top of the power source in order to have the circuit all together, and then we can put it all on top of our gray block to secure it so that it is easier. And now we can try it out. Now we're going to connect our circuit to the coding app. We're going to go to the Bluetooth icon, select twin, and then say pair, and it is going to be paired. Now we can say start and our circuit will start working. So in order to imitate an animal, we have our little lion here. So if our lion comes walking from this side, the ultrasonic sensors will see him, and then she can go on. Hello again, welcome to the workshop flow where we will be discussing sustainable cities and experimenting with designing an electric car. So to go to the Sustainable Cities lesson plan, we're going to go to the Twin library at our portal, and we're going to select World Science Movement Term 1. If we scroll all the way down, we can see the Sustainable Cities lesson plan. If we get into this one, similar to the previous lessons, we're going to see an introduction, learning objectives, materials, curriculum alignments, and then the Sustainable Development Goals. And if we go a bit further down, we can see videos about what is the advantage of using electric cars, what is the disadvantage of electric cars, and sustainable cities. You can share these videos using a smart board during your class and share it with your students. Similar to the previous videos in the previous lessons, these are all interactive and they're asking your students about their opinions. If they answer correctly, the correct answer is again explained. If they answer incorrect, why the answer is incorrect will be again explained. And then we can see that there's a challenge called remote controlled car, which we will be doing today. The remote controlled car challenge, if you click on this, you will see all the steps to this challenge and you will see the explanations of everything. But right now we're not going to be getting into it because we're going to be doing it together. If you go a little bit further, you can see that there are loads of other challenges as well, which you can do during your class, or you can assign them to your students. You can monitor their progress during the reports, as we spoke about during the previous videos. Now let's see how the electric car is made. Before we start the experiment, you can see all the materials that we're going to be using in front of me. We have our coding module, our power source, 2 DC motors, 2 wheels, our buzzer, which we'll be using as a horn, our wheel, and then we have 2 wires in order to connect the pieces together. And then we have 4 parts that we're going to be using to secure everything together. We have one 4x1, and then, we have 2 4x1 pieces and then 2 4x2 pieces that we're going to be using. And then we're going to have our plate that we're going to be using to secure everything together. Firstly, we need to make sure that we're taking off these white plastic pieces out of our motor so we can connect it with the wheels. So it can be a little bit hard, so you may have to pull it. So if the students are struggling with it, you can help them out. Also, after we take this out, we're going to connect the wheels onto this. So we can look at the little metal piece here and we can see that it has kind of like a D shape, which is also present in the wheels, like the empty side of the wheels as well. So when we're connecting the 2 together, we have to make sure that they align so they can go in easily. If not, it's going to be a bit more difficult to connect the 2 pieces. We're going to do this for both wheels. I had already taken out the white piece from this one. Okay. We're gonna also make sure that they're not pushed all the way in so they can actually work as wheels of a car. After we put the wheels on the motors, we can connect the wheels with the wires. We're using the wires to be able to connect the wheels with the coding module. So after we connect the wheel and the wire, we're going to use one of the 2x4 pieces to secure the two together. And then we're also going to put one of the 1x4 pieces on this side because we're going to be using these as a tool to connect the wheel on our plate. And then we can do the same on the other side. After we connect these pieces, we're gonna put them on our plate. We will have to make sure that they're on the right side. So for example, on this wheel, it says right. So I'm gonna put it on the right side. I'm gonna connect them from the bottom so that it can actually work as a car. And then I'm gonna do the same on the left side as well. Making sure that they're aligned. Now we can connect our wires to the coding module. So we can put the coding module sideways, and then we're going to connect them to D6 and D10. After we do this, we can stabilize it on the plate as well. It might be easier to connect the coding module with the wires before you put them on the plate because it might get a little bit harsher. And then we have our third wheel to make sure that it can actually move, and we're gonna put it on the front. After we put the last wheel on, we're going to connect our buzzer, which is going to act as our horn. And then our last step is going to be connecting our power source to the coding module. Again, we're going to make sure that the USB is aligned. Since this is a micro USB, it might be a little bit difficult to put it exactly where it's supposed to go, but we have to make sure that we're not using excessive force and we're aligning the two so that there is no harm done to it. And lastly, we're going to be using our twin coding module and connecting to the car and driving it like a remote controlled car. When we open our app, we're going to see coding, experiments, and controller. Previously, we had gone into coding. Now we're going to go into controller. After we go into controller, we're going to scroll a little bit down and we're going to see the driving mode. After we see the driving mode, you can see that there's a start button and then there's a how it works button. If you go into the how it works button, you can see which pieces you're going to use, what you're supposed to connect with each other, and how to drive it. But we are doing it right now, so we don't need to get into that in detail. If we click start, and then we click the button on the down right-hand side, the app is going to start searching for twins, and since I'm the only twin around, it's going to connect very easily. To test whether we actually successfully connected, we can test our horn. And as you can see, we have connected and the car is working, so now we can go forward. So when I try and go forward, the car is actually coming backwards, and when I try and go backwards, it's going forwards. This is a common mistake done when doing this experiment. This is due to the wiring. To fix this, we can actually, as you can see right now, the wires are connected to the coding module in a straight manner. To fix this, we can just take them off this coding module and do them in a crisscross manner. And if you switch around the places where the wires are connected to the coding module, this should fix the problem. And when I go forward, the car will now go forward. And when I go backwards, it will go backwards. Hello and welcome to our artificial intelligence related video. Right now we're going to be talking about what artificial intelligence is, what machine learning is, and what the importance of AI is. You can also access videos and lesson plans about artificial intelligence through the platform and conduct experiments with your students. For artificial intelligence related contents, we need to click on World Science Movement Term 2. Here on, we'll see loads of lesson plans such as climate change, vehicles of the future, social innovation. Right now, we're going to be going into what is machine learning. Here, we're also going to see our video called What is Machine Learning, as well as a challenge called Teaching Differences to Our Tech. In this challenge, when we get into this challenge, we're greeted by an introduction, materials, and steps of the challenge. The point of the challenge is to teach us about how AI differentiates between images, such as how it can say I'm a human being when compared to an image of a cat. And the goal is to identify the distinctions and how the differences are detected by the artificial intelligence. After that, we can move on to our training learning models lesson plan. If we go back to our World Science Movement Term 2, right next to it, we're going to have the training learning modules. Here, we're similar to all the lesson plans, we're going to have our introduction, learning objectives, materials, curriculum alignment, and the social development goals that it aligns with. We have our video, and then we have our challenge. When we go into our lesson plan training learning models, we can see that we have our introduction, the learning objectives, the materials, curriculum alignment, and our sustainable development goals that are parallel with the lesson plan. If we scroll down a little bit, we'll see that there's a video per usual, and then we have our challenge called Be Quick on the Draw. So the challenge Be Quick on the Draw is similar to the one that we talked about previously. Here we will be drawing an image of something that we want, for example, an apple. And when we draw this, the AI is going to compare this image with the other images that it has in its broad database, and it will see that there are similarities between this image and the previous Apple images that it contained. And after comparing all the images together, it will detect that this is actually an apple. You can perform these experiments with your students during class or in between class to make it a fun experience for them. Now we will be using an experiment to see how we can train AI in order to understand the images that it sees. So if we go back to our portal to World Science Movement Term 2, we can see a lesson plan called How Do Computers See? If we get into that, we will again see our introduction, the learning objectives, materials, curriculum alignment, and the sustainable development goals. And then we can see the video and the challenge. I'm not going to get into the video or the challenge right now because we will be using the electric car that we did in a previous experiment and train it to move according to the images that it sees. To experiment how AI can be trained using visuals, we can use a twin coding app as well. So if we go to the controller and select AI Drive, we will have a new experiment. We can go to how it works to see how it works, but we can just do the experiment for now. If we say start, we will first have to train our model. We will select train on the top right-hand side, and then we'll select which command we want to teach AI first. So we'll start with forward. After selecting forward, I will swap the camera around, and I will take photos of post-its that we had prepared previously. So we're gonna take multiple photos, so when AI sees this image on the camera, it will be able to detect it better because it's going to be, these are the images that AI compares, this is a database that AI compares images to. And then we're going to say train, it will say model trained successfully, and then we're going to repeat this process for each of the steps. After taking photos of each of the visuals, we're going to go back, and then we are going to connect to our car that we have previously done. I had already connected to this. Now AI is trying to understand what it sees and comparing it to the images that we have. So if we put our camera towards the forward post-it that we drew, it should actually go to 100% in forward, but it sometimes doesn't because AI can be tricky to train sometimes. But for example, when we put the camera towards the stop visual, it stops and it doesn't move anymore. And if we put it towards the left one, towards the right one, it should go to 100% right, but it gets mixed up between backwards and the right one because they are similar images. For example, if we scan the right visual, car will start turning right, and it will keep going right. Sometimes it gets mixed up with left because they are very similar images, but usually it will keep going right. Similar to being able to train AI with visuals, we can also train AI using sounds as well. To experiment with this, we can go to the lesson called How Do Computers Hear? Again, under World Science Movement Term 1. And then we'll also see a challenge called Sound Car. You can go into this challenge and experience it with your students in the classroom, but we don't have to go into it right now because we will actually be doing that experiment right now as well. Now to see how computers can recognize sound using artificial intelligence, again, we're going to use the electrical car that we did in a previous experiment. And we're going to go to our twin coding app and go to the controller and then to sound car. Again, like the previous experiment, you can go to how it works and see how the experiment works, but we can just start with the experiment for now. After we say start, similar to what we did with the visual recognition experiment, we're going to select one of the commands that we want to train AI with. Let's say we're going to begin with forward. Now I will be holding down the record button and saying the command that I want AI to recognize as the command for the car to go forward. Forward. After this, I will say save and repeat the process for each of the commands that I want. Backward. Go right. Go left. Stop. You can make sure that the commands you're giving are the ones that are understood by the AI, because it also writes the command that you're saying at the moment. After this, we're gonna say save, and then we're gonna train the car by clicking train on the top right-hand side of the interface. Now we can test whether this works or not. We're gonna hold down the microphone and then say our commands, and we'll see. Forward. Stop. In between the commands, I release the button and then press again so that AI can understand the differences between the two commands that I'm saying. Go right. Go left. Stop. Backwards. Stop. As you can see, the commands that I say are the ones that the car is actually doing. And also, when I trained the car, I said backward instead of backwards, but even when I say backwards, the car actually starts going backwards, so it can differentiate and see the similarities between the two words as well. With our voice-controlled car experiment, we've come to the end of our artificial intelligence section. Thank you so much for listening.